can't give back at the same rate. So there's something really screwy there. You've got to be able to have a quid pro quo. If you don't have a quid pro quo, then that's not a good thing. So polygamy is out. Why is polygamy wrong for Wojtyła, John Paul II? Why is polygamy just totally out the door?
Well, it goes back to Genesis. He says they made them man and woman in the beginning.
He said that you give yourself totally and uniquely to the other.
And how can you do that if you you're breaking yourself up into pieces and giving yourself to 3 wives? So you can't give yourself totally to every single wife. You're cutting yourself up into 3 in a sense. So it's not a total gift. It's not a total gift kind of thing. So it's in a sense it's the same argument, but for very, very, very different reasons. In other words, polygamy is out for both of them. Okay, how we doing? All right. Let's keep going fast and furious. So another way of saying this whole thing is human consciousness not only sets its own terms, but the terms for reality itself. I get to set terms for who I am. I get to set terms, therefore, for the reality outside of me. I get to control what I see. I get to control you. You remember Jim Jones? Remember that? So a lot of you are old enough to remember Jim Jones. That is a classic example of somebody who sits there and looks out there and says, I have control, and that's the way I see reality.
Well, we did the same thing with Hail Bob. We had a small group of people did the same thing. It was coming, was it 6-7 years ago? And we had 10-15 people kill themselves the same way.
Who is this?
That was the Hail Bob comet they came.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the Haley comet, right. It's exactly the same kind of thing. There's always a guru. There's always somebody around which everybody goes around. And in the final tally, love really, for Kant, just obliterates the whole system. It just doesn't. Sex is on the sub-rational level, and it's just not a cool thing. Wojtyła and Shaler. Okay, now we're not going to get too much into Shaler. That's a true phenomenologist. Now Shaler was what? Edith Stein's teacher, right? Okay, so Max Shaler is in the 20th century, right? And yes, 64, 65, and on. Shaler looks at Kant, Immanuel Kant, and says, Kant, you're out of your mind. So right away, that's interesting, okay, to John Paul II. And Shaler has a couple of good points to him. He gets back to love, the meaning of love. He says love is very important, and it's the experience of love that is very important. The experience comes from the subject, right? But my experience of love is actually telling me something, is it not? Just like if I experience a hostile class or a loving class, I'm experiencing something real, okay? And you can't take that. You can't dissuade me from that because I know it's there. Okay, that's what Shaler is saying about phenomenology. He says the values that we sense here, that we see, are real because we're experiencing them inside here. What else does he say? Oh yes, the imitation of Jesus Christ is important. Well, we all know that. But he doesn't see Jesus Christ as another person, where you actually have a personal thing going on between the two of you. In other words, there's no communion of persons. It's what you see Jesus. You see Jesus as a certain loving person, and you emulate him. And so your ethos is to imitate Jesus. So you go around imitating Jesus. It doesn't make any difference who Jesus really was. I mean, in a sense, did he really resurrect? Or did he? See, when I was in graduate theology, did I tell you this story? When I was in graduate theology, the theologians in those days, this was way back when said, well, you know, it's not really important whether Jesus resurrected or not. And I'm sitting there, and I'm an older student, and I'm sitting there saying, okay, I'll listen. I'm kind of, okay, where are we taking me? And the whole premise was this. So you've got all the eggheads up here. You've got academicians, and they've got degrees from here all the way up to here. And they have to hobnob with other people who do not believe in Jesus Christ. And they don't believe that Jesus Christ performed miracles, and they don't believe this, they don't believe that. Okay, so resurrected, well, how can you prove that, see? You can't prove that. There's no way you can prove that, okay? So they got a problem. But they're reading the scriptures, and the disciples say, I saw him. Mary Magdalene says, I saw him first. See, that kind of thing. So they have to deal with that as academicians. So this is how they do it. They say, you know what? It's not really important that he resurrected or he didn't. What it is important is to realize that they believed he resurrected. That's one step away, isn't it? See? So basically what you're doing is saying, well, the disciples believed it. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to believe it, but they believed it, and I've done my academic duty. So that's the deal. Now, so Max Shaler is looking at Jesus Christ as somebody to imitate, but he's not looking at Jesus Christ as someone that you actually have a what? Personal relationship with. Exactly. So basically, then the question is, can we build a Christian ethic on top of Max Shaler's personalism, a la phenomenology? And the answer is no, because he's too phenomenological. He doesn't take in the fact that there is a reality outside of the individual. He's still coming from here and saying everything is real only because I know it's real from here. See, he's not actually attributing reality outside of himself. So that's why you can't do that. Okay. How are we doing? Oh, we're doing really good. A couple more points, and then I'm going to let you go. This is really, is it too hot in here? Is it me? Is it just right? Really? It's just me. Okay, me. Turn to page 80. Page 80. Yeah, I'm the wrong gender, yeah. I'm the wrong gender. No, you know what? I mean, I'm talking, are we talking Immanuel Kant here? Anna Ramirez Palmer, you got your fingers right in
Your
this.
definition of love is not my definition.
Yeah, that's it. There you go. Now you're talking. Page 80. About 10 lines down, it says, 8 lines down, the way both the question and the answer of people of God must be understood, he adds, is pastoral. Next line. This is the important one. How can the church grow in her awareness and life as the people of God? One line down from that. The growth of the church's awareness must take place in the life of the individual persons that constitute it. This is John Paul II's thought now. Now we're back on faith here, right? Faith, experience, and personal subjectivity. We're right back, and to your question, but now your question is juxtaposed with what? Faith and experience, is it not? What does it mean to have faith?